All right, let's try and piece together the economic puzzle of 2026. What does the forecast actually mean for you?
So what's the deal with 2026? Are we looking at a slowdown, a squeeze on our wallets, or maybe, just maybe, a silver lining somewhere in all this? Honestly, the signals are all over the place. We're seeing signs of stress, but also some real opportunities. So, what should we actually expect?
In this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to connect the dots from these huge global trends all the way down to the numbers in your own bank account.
To really get what's ahead, we have to start with the big picture. And right now, there's some serious global headwinds that are shaping everything else.
Forecasters see a pretty clear trend for 2026. Global growth is, well, it's slowing down. Now, you can see here the U.S. is expected to lead the pack of the big G7 nations, but the overall pace is definitely cooling off. And a huge reason for that is all the growing uncertainty in international trade.
Yeah, a key driver of this slowdown is trade policy. Just think of higher U.S. tariffs as friction in the gears of global trade. That friction, it raises costs for businesses, and you know where those costs eventually end up? With us, the consumers.
Now, it's not all bad news. Inflation is finally cooling down in a lot of wealthy nations. That could give central banks room to ease up on those high borrowing costs. But not everyone is in the clear. Some countries, like the UK, might see that inflation stick around a bit longer, earning them this title of a disinflation laggard.
Okay, so now let's zoom in on the US, because there's a really specific, kind of strange pattern that's starting to emerge. Economists are actually calling this environment stagflation light. So it's not the full-blown economic crisis you might remember from the history books, but it's more of a frustrating middle ground, kind of like driving with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. Growth is sluggish, but at the same time, prices are just stubbornly high.
In this right here, this is the engine room of stagflation light. Look on the left. Wage growth has been incredibly sticky. It's just not coming down fast. Now look to the right. The cost of services, things like a haircut or a car repair that really depend on labor, they're now the main driver of inflation. It's pretty simple. As long as wages stay high, service inflation is probably going to stay high too. And that keeps the overall inflation rate from dropping quickly.
So why are wages so sticky in the first place? Well, this chart reveals a massive structural shift that's happening. As a record number of baby boomers retire, the whole labor pool is shrinking. That forces companies to compete for fewer available workers, and that keeps wages high.
Okay, so what does all this economic theory actually mean for your wallet? Let's talk about the real-world personal impact. For a lot of households, this feels like a slow, relentless squeeze. Sure, your paycheck might be going up, but if it isn't keeping pace with the rising cost of essentials, that gap becomes a pinch that's getting harder and harder to ignore.
And you're probably going to feel this squeeze most at the grocery store. I mean, get ready for it. Experts are flagging these 6 kitchen staples for some pretty significant price hikes in 2026, and it's all thanks to a perfect storm of factors, from smaller cattle herds pushing up beef prices to crazy weather impacting coffee and sugar crops.
And it is not just groceries. Households are also facing growing stress from our aging infrastructure. I'm talking about fragile energy grids being strained by heat waves, rising insurance premiums in areas that are prone to extreme weather, and just higher overall costs for utilities and other essential services.
But, amidst all this pressure, there is a potential silver lining that's starting to emerge in one of the biggest parts of the economy, the housing market.
So after years of gridlock, it looks like the housing market might be poised for a comeback. The National Association of Realtors is projecting that existing home sales will jump by a pretty significant 14% in 2026. This signals a major shift. The combination of easing mortgage rates and more homes actually coming onto the market is expected to make homeownership a real possibility again for millions of households that were just completely priced out. So what's behind this shift? It's really another perfect storm, but this time a good one. Mortgage rates are expected to ease, which could finally unlock years of pent-up demand for millennials. And at the same time, as rates fall, current homeowners are going to feel less locked into their super low rates, which means they'll put more houses on the market and boost supply.
Okay, so with all this information, the pressures, the opportunities, what can you actually do to prepare your own finances for the year ahead?
So how do you prepare? Well, experts suggest a 5-part strategy. Think of it like defense and offense. On defense, you can cut the fat from your budget and try to lock in stable costs for things like rent or loans to fight that wallet squeeze. On offense, boosting your skills is one of the best hedges against inflation.
And for a strong foundation, maybe consider investing in essentials that people always need, and keeping a separate cash fund ready to absorb those surprise spikes in food and gas prices.
So, there you have it. The 2026 economy is a seriously complex puzzle. We've seen the global headwinds, we've talked about the pressure of stagflation light, and that surprising bright spot in housing. Look, the key isn't to predict every single piece perfectly. That's impossible. It's about understanding how they all connect. So the real question is, now that you can see the whole board, which piece are you going to focus on to build your own financial security?